welcome to Corinne's Picks. Today we are honored to have with us a world-renowned sculptor, Diane Van Der Zanden. She is one of the pioneers of the East Bay art scene. I know her when I was an artist in the East Bay. She had a very popular studio. She taught sculptor, and she is definitely somebody we celebrate. And so glad to have you on the show today. Welcome, Diane.
Wow, thanks, Corinne. It's great to see you.
Now, a lot of people might not know it, but you're somebody who's heavily collected internationally. That your sculptures are in the homes of collectors all over the United States and internationally. And I know that you have moved to Mexico, so we're actually taping this show from Mexico. I forgot, what part of Mexico are you in right now?
I'm in Colima. It's about halfway down the Pacific coast.
Okay, so just so that as the conversation goes along, the audience knows what we're talking about, can you tell us a little bit about the art, the sculpture that you create, and then we'll show some images so that they can connect your description with the images. So what kind of sculpture are you creating?
I'm making a lot of images of women, although not exclusively images of women, but I've continued to do that here. The main thing that I've changed working here is when I moved here, I had been, well, in the Bay Area, I had been working with bronze and with clay and with polyurethane molds and fiberglass and all kinds of materials that were not great for my health. And so when I moved here, I decided that I wanted to change the way that I worked. I wanted to work non-toxic, less toxic. And I think I've grown up a lot in that way since I've been here, and also with my imagery.
So the medium of art that you selected was sculpture. Why sculpture? Because I'm a painter, and sculpture is a very specific field. There's a lot of mastery. There's a lot of science that goes into it. It's something that's very unforgiving. So why sculpture?
Yeah, I started when I was really young, and it never felt unforgiving to me. It always felt much easier than making a painting or even than making a drawing. I have a love-hate relationship with drawing. And yeah, there's a lot of technique to it. But I love that. I love making my armatures, and I love put it like the beginning where I'm, setting things up and all the technique comes in.
I've been watching a lot of your works in Instagram, and I'm gonna show some images of the work you're doing right now. And then after you describe them, I'm gonna put in my 2 cents, because I've just been you've totally changed what my concept of doing sculpture has been. So let's look at a few images, and maybe you can describe the process and what the images are about for us.
Okay. I wanted to show you this one because partly I just wanted to show you the size. This is the size that I'm working right now. It's about half of life size, or half of my size, I suppose. And what I do is I make a plasticine original piece, and then I cut that piece apart, and I make many molds of the pieces, and then into the plaster molds is what I'm doing these days. And into those molds, I layer paper. And if the sculptures are smaller, it doesn't take as much, maybe 3 or 4 coats of paper. But if sculptures get bigger and bigger, then it's many, many layers of paper in order to make something that's very strong and sturdy, that will hold up. What else can I tell you?
Well, there was an interesting backstory in terms of how you came upon using paper instead of clay.
Yeah, you know, I barely understood how to speak Spanish at the time, and I got a hold of this YouTube video. I was so frustrated with my process here. I got a hold of a YouTube video that was of a Portuguese man speaking Portuguese and teaching how to make Venetian masks. And I thought I had to watch it 10 times in order to understand what he was saying. And I thought, I can make 3-dimensional pieces using that technique. He was putting paper into plaster molds. It just looked so easy. And so, then I started and I did that, and it's taken me a long time to really figure it out. And I have not mastered it yet, but I'm very happy about what's happening.
Okay, so let's look at some more images, because I want to make sure that we get through all of them in this interview.
Okay. This is Cycle of Life, and I watched you say a quote about Hollywood, Corinne, and I thought it was perfectly appropriate to my work, because I want to change. I want to show real women, real bodies, real women, real relationships. And so this is one of those pieces. The one we're looking at right now, the previous one was the young woman, and the daughter in this case. And then the next one is the mom with the newborn baby. And then the next one, I think, oh, maybe not. Anyway, this is the texture on the piece, which is layers of paint over the paper. So you can see the paper underneath. And then as I paint up the layers of paint, you can see still the layers of paper underneath. And I love that, because it feels like vibrancy. It feels like life. It feels like movement.
Well, are you using models from Mexico? Like, what are you using as I guess what are you using? I know traditionally sculptors sometimes use models. Who are you using in Mexico?
My head.
Oh, so,
and myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I have mirrors in my studio, and I look a lot at myself. I'm constantly taking off my shirt and putting it back on, and just checking and taking photographs and looking like, what does this look like if I move like this? What does it look like? So that I don't like having people in my studio. I don't really like having company. And I feel like I get thrown off track if I have a model and I'm paying that model and I'm, supposed to be doing something. And I like it better if I use the images that I have in my head.
It's amazing, because I think one of the first images I saw, I was just marveling at how smooth the stomach and smooth and detailed the stomach looked. So that's why I thought you were using models. I was like, how can you possibly recreate that?
Yeah, that's the white one, right? The holding up the sky.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it was like the breast and stomach. But I was just looking at the different planes of the stomach. I just thought that was amazing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this one is more of a self-portrait from when I was younger, I have to say. But this one has a coat of plaster over the surface of the paper. So I've been playing with like how, what do I want, and different ways to finish the paper. And this is plaster. And so with this, I can make a really, really smooth surface. And yeah, then I paint it with oil paint, and I like that too.
So you said that in terms of medium, going from clay to paper, that you were influenced by a YouTube video. But in general, we as artists have influences in terms of other artists whose work we really admire. Who are some of your influences? Whose work do you like?
Oh, so many. You know, it's funny because I mostly like painters, and I love Goya. And there's this woman, very not very well known woman named Marguerite Stix, who was in concentration camps and made paintings with lipstick, and you know, just amazing stuff. I don't know. I think a lot about like women role models, I guess, more than artists a lot of times. Like I'm 58, and so I had these role models who were like perfectly put together and skinny and sexy and everything, right? And like Batwoman and Catwoman and I love Nancy Sinatra. Like anybody who was going a little bit against the grain, I just loved that as a kid. I remember being 7 years old and just worshiping these women who were, you know, super sexy in the way of Hollywood, but also just like these boots are made for walking, you know, going a little bit against the grain of what a woman could do.
So I look at your Instagram videos and they just seem absolutely playful, because I never knew you could use a rock. You know, the materials that you're using and the things that you're using to create these pieces blows my mind. I didn't know you could do that. So it just seems like in Mexico you're down there playing and having this kind of kindergarten fun with culture.
Yeah, I feel like that now. I feel like I've sort of finally gotten my head around this method of working. And like, I could do anything, you know, I could make a paper cast of a fire hydrant, you know, and that would be really fun. If I can find a way to put it into the sculpture, right?
So when I lived in Berkeley for 15 years, and you were always like one of the big names in terms of, you know, institutions, your studio. What are some of the challenges? Because you've obviously, you're still a sculptor. What are some of the challenges that you've had in your career in surviving as an artist, as a sculptor? And you just came through a pandemic.
Yeah. Well, you know, the challenge up until recently has really been money. It's been working, you know, one or two other jobs to try to, you know, make this sculpture studio work. And just, I mean, everything that you know that goes along with making artwork, the space, the time, the money, you know, and the Bay Area was, you know, I learned a lot there. It's a great place, but I don't think it was easy for me. I'm from Oregon, you know, I'm from the country. And now there's somebody sweeping right here outside the door.
Yeah. We can't hear it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So I'm from the country, from Oregon, and there was a lot of space and a lot of, you know, you could just walk out the door and go for a walk, and you'd be in the woods, in the green, and it was better, I think. And here it's similar. I live in the country. It's wonderful. So
we're gonna take a break for a commercial break, and then I'd like to go back, you know, get back to your train of thought, because I really like what you're saying in terms of your move to Mexico and the new work you're creating. So we'll be back in a second.
Okay.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad! Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Welcome back. We were talking to Diane Van Der Zanden about Diane Louise Van Der Zanden about her move to Mexico and just the newfound freedom of living in a more rural environment. So, if you don't mind talking a little bit more about that, but what you talked about some of the advantages. What are some of the things that might be disadvantages in terms of doing your craft in a more rural environment?
Yeah, it's not so much the rural environment because I love that and it works for me. But it was that I assumed that there was great clay here. Like in the Bay Area, you can get the most wonderful sculpture clay. And here, you know, I ordered clay from everywhere. And then later I found out that people are ordering their clay from the US in order to get some good clay to work with. I couldn't make anything very big with the sculpture clay that's here. And that's part of the reason why I started working with the paper. Yeah, and the other part of the reason is because, you know, what I was doing before was harming me. And I think so much about the climate crisis and the environmental crisis. And I think, well, if it's harming me, you know, then it's harming the planet, the earth around me. And I decided, okay, let's change that. At least personally, let's change that.
It's very well said. I really want to get back into some of these images and really explore what you're doing right now. So can we have another image, please?
This is Where Is Mama Going? And I stole this image from a Goya print. The only thing that's different, well, of course, his was a print and mine is a sculpture, but the thing that's different is the donkey. I set the family on the donkey. And I think it's confusing about what is that woman doing up there, you know, and it feels to me like the sort of role that we have in our lives, the roles that we have are confusing. What is she doing? And then the donkey has just decided like to laugh it off and sit down, you know.
No, it's a very powerful piece because, you know, the children still want what they want, and the mother is still trying to struggle to take care of them, and the donkey is just collapsing.
I give up.
Exactly. Okay, so can we have the next image, please?
Oh, so this is my warming box, and these are some smaller pieces, smaller and larger. That rock that you were talking about is up there. It's really, really humid here, and so I warm the paper up and put it together and seal the inside so that the water doesn't get in and destroy the paper pieces.
Okay, the next image, please.
And this is the pieces that are in the video that I made for you. Let's see, the rock is down on the bottom, and there's a foot. It's hard to see it. It's right in the middle at the bottom, but it's like the sort of representation of the what I go through, the first layer of paper is in the foot mold. That's a plaster mold. I'll put probably 5, 6, 7 layers of paper into that foot mold in order to have it really sturdy, so it'll hold up the piece. The rest of the piece, the legs will get, stuck onto there. I talk about that in the video that I sent you.
I encourage people to go to your Instagram, because I've seen a lot of lots of videos and images of your process, and it's really a great learning opportunity, especially if you're curious about sculpture. And I'm so glad that you brought a video for us to see your process. It's a little quick little video that can give you a little shot of what it's like to work with your new method. So can we see the video briefly?
Morning. I want to show you how I'm layering paper into my plaster molds in order to make the pieces of the sculpture that I then put together. I use Yes paste, add water to it, and I build into the mold like this, creating these flanges so that the pieces can go together at the end. They get glued together. I glue them together using the flanges. These are the legs of the earthbound sculpture. This is an arm of the earthbound sculpture. And with the hand with the mortise and tenon joint, the hand gets put on there, glued on there with paper paste that I mix. The flanges will get cut off, and this arm will be put on here. I'm going to rebuild this head, make another plaster mold of that, and do the same with that. And that's the process. Thanks.
So, Diane, are you doing any teaching at all right now, or is it basically this is your time and you're just focusing on this new adventure?
Yeah, I was teaching a very little bit here before the pandemic. And I was thinking about teaching more, a little bit more after, although I'm kind of thinking more, maybe not. Maybe I don't want to do that so much. I love to teach make videos and teach online. But aside from that, I'm not sure. I might not.
So do you have any plans to do any NFTs? That's the rage now in terms of art and selling art. Are you doing any of that?
NFTs? What is that?
Oh, well, I guess not. NFTs, and when you post these videos on Instagram and these images, they convert it into a digital file, and that's what people sell, that digital file instead of the original art.
Oh,
so they're selling for some of them are selling for millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars with big name artists.
Sounds great. Let's do it. I say yes. These days, if somebody asks me to do something, I say yes.
Okay, say yes to life. Okay, what would you say? We only have a couple of minutes left, so I want to get as much as I can. What would you say are some of the highlights of your career?
Oh my goodness, the highlights of my career. I did like teaching. I liked teaching a lot. That was fun when I was doing it, teaching mold making. I felt really good about that. I think having work in New York City was really fun. I won some awards. I won some money. I like that. It's great to have people think that your work is good. Moving the last few months here in Mexico have been really great. I just felt so depressed during the winter and with the pandemic, and I didn't know what to do. And I finally got back into the studio, and I started feeling again like, this is my calling. This is what I meant to do. More than teaching, more than doing anything else, making sculptures is the thing. And I love having the ability to do that. I have it. It's easier now for me to do that financially and everything.
So, you know, as an artist, I always like to challenge myself to make things hard. What would you say is something that you'd like, you know, to challenge yourself with in the future in terms of where this new method is going, or these new works you're doing are going? Um, what are you currently, you know, what's in the pot? What are you currently working on as the next big project?
Right. Well, I'm kind of the opposite of that, Corinne. I always make things hard and I'm trying to make them easier. But I would love to make a public art sculpture. I mean, if it's paper, it would have to be indoors, but I would love to do that. And believe it or not, I have never had a solo show, and I want to have a solo show. And that's the thing that I'm working towards right now.
Well, universe, you heard it from her. So needs, you know, 2021. That's the next big accomplishment. I'm so glad you were willing to come on my show today. Wish we could have showed more of your work, and I really do want people to go to your Instagram or your Facebook and see, or your YouTube, because I really find your videos to be fascinating.
Thank you, Corinne. Thanks for asking me.
Okay, so you know, definitely her Instagram is at the bottom of the screen, and definitely Google her and find out more. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.